Welcome back to 33-year-old boomer ranting in an undisclosed location. Companies are sucking the fun out of coding. Let's talk about it. Look, I'm not a commie. My parents grew up under communism in the Eastern Bloc, and they've told me about the horrors of it. However, that doesn't mean that I can't criticize the profit motive whenever I think that it's doing more harm than good. Right now, I think that a lot of companies are getting very, very greedy, and they're kind of destroying software development. Right now, non-technical executives are forcing more and more software engineers to use AI at work, to use agents. Bro, you can become a 10x developer. We're not going to pay you 10x, but you can do 10x to work. And the problem is that this is kind of destroying software. You see, the executives who are pushing for this, they don't have any real experience with software, and so they don't understand it. But some of the best software, some of the most useful, some of the most used software was made by a bunch of autists who were solving problems and having fun. Linux is a fantastic example of this. Linus literally made it because he wanted to have an open source operating system. He didn't want to have to go to Unix, or he didn't want to have to rely on some other company. He wanted an open system that people could use as they saw fit. Gmail is a fantastic example of this. Gmail was made by one person. It was made at Google. However, it was made by one guy who was solving problems and having fun. I've also heard rumors that there's a division at Valve. I'm not sure if this is confirmed or not, but there's apparently a division at Valve where they basically pay very smart people to just work on whatever, because they know that even if 99 of them don't do anything significant, the one person that builds something really interesting is going to more than make up for the money that they're spending on the program itself. Because they understand that behind good software, behind useful, robust, simple, proper software, there's always an autist behind a keyboard having fun. And the executives who are pushing this because they're thinking, oh, we can save a bunch of money, dude. Did you know that we can, with AI now, you can just fire 90% of your developers? Bro, programming is simple, bro. It's been solved by AI. Because, of course, you don't know what you don't know. The funny thing is that even the executives who are pushing for this, they recognize that Linux is good. Every corporation uses Linux on the back end, because they realize, we don't really want to have all of our proprietary data on the servers of some competitor. That would be a bad idea. We need to have it on some sort of open system that isn't owned by one company. They understand the usefulness of such software, and yet they're pushing software in the complete opposite direction. And the problems with this are beyond just the obvious. The software is going to suck, it's going to be a lot buggier, it's going to be a lot less reliable, it's going to cost money, it might even cost lives if it's vibe coded. It goes beyond that. The developers themselves might be opening themselves up to lawsuits. Because, of course, when you push code into production, your name is on that code, isn't it? The company that you work for might even be smart enough to not force you to use AI. Hey, you don't have to use AI, bro, but we're just going to fire half of your colleagues. But you don't have to use AI if you don't want to. There's a train. That's a very old train. You don't have to use AI, bro. Just do whatever. But of course, you don't have any choice. But if you're working on software, and if you're working on something that is actually meaningful for the world, your vibe-coded software that you are forced to sign, essentially, it has your name on it when you upload it. you might be held legally liable for it. Oh boy, that's not a good thing. And of course, your managers don't care, the executives don't care. It's not their name that goes on the software. They'll say, "Hey, look, I didn't make him use AI. I just gave him a job, and he agreed to do it." And so, if something bad happens as a result of your code, you are responsible for it. You better believe that your managers and your bosses have done everything they can to protect themselves in the event that happens. And even if that doesn't happen, the problem is that if you're forced to use AI, it sucks a lot of the fun out of the process. If you don't have to use that, if you can use that if you need to, if you find an instance where, hey, I could use ChatGPT as a quicker way to search for some syntax. Hey, GPT, how do I read the contents of a file in this language? Oh, certainly, I can definitely help you with that. Here's how you do it. That's fine. But it becomes a problem when you have to, when your boss institutes quotas that you have to hit. You have to use a certain amount of AI, otherwise you're not being a team player, I guess. You're not being an NX developer, 10x, 100x, whatever. That's what we're going to call it, an NX developer. You're not playing ball, dude. You're being silly. You should be using as much AI as possible, says the executive who doesn't know anything about computers. Because they saw a YouTube video that said that AGI is coming, and companies that don't use AI are going to be left behind. So they know what they're talking about. And so you're going to be forced to use AI, and you better like it, because if you don't, they'll just hire someone that they fired recently instead of you, who will then proceed to vibe code everything because they have no choice. And software gets worse. And remember, everything runs on software, including security of everything. Like can you imagine if your social security number, if you're American, gets leaked because someone vibe coded an application because they had no choice, because their boss told them to? And now your life is a nightmare for the next few months as you find out that some guy has been opening lines of credit in your name. And all of that happened because some executive at a company wanted to save a few $1,000s a year. That's why it happened. Isn't that great? And I'm aware that this happens anyway. However, it's going to happen a lot more. So what is the solution here? Because I'm not a negative Nancy. This channel is all about cope and hope. What is the solution here? The solution is understanding that you do not have to enjoy your job necessarily. It is very possible that you might enjoy the thing that you would do at your job, but your job itself is making it very difficult, if not impossible, to enjoy it. What this means is that you can go to work, you can do your work, and you can come home and you can program in your spare time. And you can code things that you enjoy, you can make good software, you can scratch that itch in your autistic brain that pushes you to do this. Regarding the legal liability stuff, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know. I think this issue is going to become very prevalent in the near future, because if there's some sort of disaster as a result of vibe coded software, you better believe that this is going to become a very prominent talking point, and something is going to have to be done about that, because I guess, well, who's liable for the code? If it's the engineer, and you're forced to vibe code, like, how does that work, right? So I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the solution there is. But until managers and executives understand that AI is not really the way, that AI is not all that was promised, that AI is not going to enable you to get rid. I mean, you can get rid of 90% of your developers right now. It's just that it's going to have consequences. And just because some guy on YouTube told you that AI is the future and that there won't be any consequences, that doesn't make it so. Don't worry, bro. AGI is coming. You'll be able to run your company. It's just you and AI, bro. Don't worry about who's going to be buying your product if no one's hired, if no one's employed. Don't worry about that part. That's too many steps into the future. Take it one step at a time, bro. Step number 1, use AI. Step number 2, fire all of your staff. Step number 3, something, ? Step number 4, you'll be a billionaire. Don't worry, it's going to happen immediately. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting when all these companies are going to realize, this is a problem. Our best engineers are leaving because they don't want to be legally liable for vibe-coded software. And you might say, well, bro, you're going to clearly see the problems in the vibe-coded software, and you're going to, look, there's a few problems with this statement. First of all, are you going to have the time? Because if you are given all the time that you need to check the code and test it and make sure you understand it, then it's less of a problem. However, that's not going to happen because they're trying to squeeze as many dollars as they can out of this, which is why they're not going to give you the time, because they don't understand that AI doesn't work in the way that they've been told it does. They're going to think that you can now move 10 times faster with it, and they're going to fire as many of your colleagues as they can. And they're not going to give you the extra time to understand 10x the code. Alternatively, even if you are given the time, some of these bugs are so subtle that you're just not going to pick up on them. Like, the bug isn't going to be like execute remote shell. That's not what the bug is going to be. The bug is going to be some very subtle, it's going to be like some variable which in most states is perfectly fine. It's not going to cause any problems. But when this variable goes negative under very specific circumstances, then bad thing happens. It's that kind of thing. It's going to be so subtle that the only way that you can avoid it, or the only way in which you can minimize that from happening, is if you were thinking about the problem from scratch and writing the code yourself. If you are simply relying on the machine to figure out these bugs, it's not going to work. The AI doesn't understand what the code does. It doesn't understand how it works. It's just looking at a bunch of repos on GitHub and it's copying code over that it thinks is relevant to the situation. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting. I don't have any legal advice for you. Don't sue me. This is not legal advice in any way. I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I were in a situation where I was legally liable for the code that I was forced to vibe code. Like, I like coding. I think it's really fun. I'm learning assembly because I think it's really fun. And I want to get into the industry. The problem is that not only is this historically the worst time to get into it, but I'm wondering what's going to happen with all these legal implications. If I work for a company where my code matters, lives are at stake kind of matters, am I going to be held legally liable if something goes bad because of code that I was forced to generate with AI? Right? I don't know. And ironically, I'm probably better off just stacking shelves at Tesco's and coding in my spare time, because getting sued because of what my code did or what the AI's code did, I don't know. What do you think about this? What would you do if you were in that situation? Let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.